When I first met Riley during freshman orientation, I thought I'd lucked out with the perfect roommate. She was bubbly, charming, and full of that girl next door confidence that made people gravitate to her. We were total opposites. She was outgoing and effortless, and I was the quiet girl who kept her nose buried in textbooks and clung to routines like they were survival tools. But somehow, it worked. She pulled me out of my shell, and I grounded her. We stayed up late talking about our families, our dreams, our heartbreaks. She told me about her dad leaving when she was 12, and I opened up about how I'd spent most of high school hiding in the library to avoid being bullied. We shared clothes, snacks, playlists. By second semester, she started calling us soul sisters, and I believed it. I trusted her with everything, my deepest insecurities, my plans for the future, even my feelings for a guy named Ethan in our economics class. She encouraged me to talk to him, even teased me when I blushed every time he smiled at me. She made me feel seen, safe, like I wasn't alone anymore. So when we both applied for the same summer internship, a super competitive research opportunity at a major tech firm in San Francisco, we promised that no matter what happened, we'd support each other. No jealousy, I swear, Riley said, laughing. Whoever gets it, we'll celebrate together. Pinky promise. And we did, right there in our dorm room, our pinkies locked in some sacred, unbreakable vow. At the time, I didn't know that was the night she started planning my downfall. The announcement came in the middle of finals week. I was walking back from my last exam when I saw the email pop up on my phone. Congratulations. You've been selected for the Innovatech summer internship. I stood there on the sidewalk, frozen, the words blurring as tears welled up in my eyes. I had worked so hard for this. Endless all-nighters, mock interviews, volunteering for side projects just to make my resume stand out. I had wanted it badly. Not just for the experience or the prestige, but because it felt like validation. Like maybe all those years of being overlooked in high school had finally led me somewhere. I raced back to our dorm to tell Riley. She wasn't there. So I called her. When she answered, I was breathless with excitement. Riley, I got it. The internship. I got the. There was a pause. A long one. Then she said, oh, just oh. Not congratulations, not I'm so happy for you. Not even wow. Just oh. My stomach sank, but I brushed it off. Maybe she was just surprised. Later that night, she congratulated me, sort of. She gave me a weak hug, a forced smile, and said, I guess they wanted someone more academic this year. I laughed it off, but something felt different. Her eyes didn't meet mine. Her voice had an edge I couldn't quite place. I didn't know it yet, but that was the moment Riley stopped being my friend and started being my enemy. At first, the changes were small. She stopped inviting me to hang out with our usual group. When I asked what was going on, she'd say things like, oh, I thought you were too busy now with your fancy internship. She accidentally forgot to pass along messages, left me out of group chats, and started making jokes about how I was becoming one of those career-obsessed girls who forget where they came from. I laughed them off. I wanted to believe it was just stress or finals or her being in a weird mood. But then things got worse. I walked into the dining hall one day and saw everyone at our table fall silent when they saw me. Riley gave me a tight smile and said, hey, we were just talking about you. I asked, good things, I hope? She said, depends who you ask, and giggled. The people I used to eat lunch with now looked at me like I was some outsider. Rumors started floating around that I had connections at Innovatech, that I didn't deserve the internship, that I had stolen ideas from Riley's application essay. None of it was true, but it didn't matter. Riley's charm made her believable, and my quietness made me easy to doubt. One night, I found her crying in our room. I rushed to her side, alarmed. What's wrong? She looked up at me, mascara running down her cheeks. I just feel like I don't matter to anyone anymore. Everyone thinks you're so perfect. The smart one, the nice one, the one with the big future. Riley, that's not true. But it is, she snapped. You get everything handed to you and then act surprised when people don't worship you. You didn't even need the internship as much as I did. I was speechless. I wanted to comfort her, but I also felt like I'd just been slapped. She turned away and whispered, "Just forget it." So I did. Or at least, I tried. I didn't realize what she'd do next. I didn't know she'd go as far as she did. But I would soon. Because Riley wasn't just jealous. She was dangerous. And she was about to frame me for something that could destroy everything I had worked for. Looking back, I don't know how I missed the signs. I wanted so badly to believe Riley was still my friend, that the distance between us was just temporary. That maybe, deep down, she still cared. But the truth was, she was already working against me. While I was preparing for the biggest opportunity of my life, she was plotting how to take it all away. It started with my laptop. One evening, I came back from a late study session and found Riley sitting on my bed with her phone, scrolling casually like she hadn't just invaded my personal space. My laptop was open next to her. I blinked. "Hey, were you using my computer?" She didn't even flinch. "Oh yeah, I just needed to print something real quick." Yours was unlocked. It was weird. Riley had her own laptop. She always bragged about how light and fast it was. And she'd never used mine before. But I didn't push it. I was tired. My head was swimming with internship prep, finals, and the tension that hung between us like a fog. I closed the screen and thought nothing more of it. That was my mistake. The next day, I got an email from the internship coordinator at Innovatitech. Subject: Urgent Academic Integrity Inquiry. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. Inside was a formal message informing me that the university had been contacted anonymously regarding a breach of academic conduct. Apparently, documents had been submitted claiming I had plagiarized my recent economics paper, the same paper I'd submitted for both my class and the writing sample for the internship. Attached were screenshots. One showed a document with my name on it, copied almost word for word from an online database. Except, I never copied anything. The file looked like mine. The title. The formatting. My name at the top. But the contents weren't the paper I had submitted. It was a fake. A fabricated version that looked real enough to raise alarms. I called my professor immediately, panicked. She sounded surprised but said the investigation had already been passed to the academic review board. Until it was resolved, my eligibility for the internship and my standing at the university was on hold. I couldn't breathe. I ran back to the dorm, desperate for answers. And that's when I remembered Riley on my laptop. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I opened my file history. The timestamps were altered. Documents had been modified days earlier, during times when I wasn't even in the room. Suddenly, it all clicked. Riley had planted the fake paper on my laptop. She had edited it, renamed it, and timed it just right to make it look like I had submitted plagiarized work. And then she sent it to the internship board. Anonymously. I wanted to believe there was another explanation. That maybe this was a terrible coincidence. That Riley wouldn't go that far. But the truth was staring me in the face. She had gone that far. And she was just getting started. I confronted her that night. She was sitting at her desk, casually painting her nails like the world wasn't crashing down around me. "Riley," I said, my voice low and shaky. "Did you mess with my laptop?" She looked up, blinking innocently. "What are you talking about?" "You know what I'm talking about," I snapped, tears burning in my eyes. "The plagiarism file. The fake document. Someone edited my work and submitted it, and I know you were on my laptop." She scoffed. "Wow. So now you're accusing me of cheating?" "Of what?" "Trying to sabotage you. You're the only one who had access." "I was printing a recipe, Mia," she shouted, slamming the nail polish on the desk. "Do you really think I care that much about your internship? You think the world revolves around you just because you got one stupid offer?" Her words hit like punches. But it was the look in her eyes that scared me the most. Cold. Unapologetic. Like she was proud of what she'd done. I trusted you, I whispered. She stood, walking up to me until we were face to face. That was your first mistake. I moved out the next morning. I couldn't breathe in that room anymore. Couldn't sleep under the same roof as the girl who had once called me her soul sister, and now wanted nothing more than to ruin me. I reported everything to the academic board, explained the situation, gave them access to my document history, showed them the file timestamps, even offered to resubmit my work under supervision. They listened. But investigations take time. And in the meantime, my internship offer was revoked pending clarification. Just like that. It was gone. The thing I had worked for, sacrificed for, burned, destroyed. Because someone couldn't handle that I succeeded where she didn't. The whispers got louder after that. People looked at me differently. Some avoided me. Others sent cryptic messages like, "Heard what happened. Sucks." No one asked for my side. No one seemed to care. Riley, of course, spun her own version of the story. Told people she tried to warn me not to cheat. Said she was just trying to protect the integrity of the school. She painted herself as the victim, the loyal roommate who had to watch her friend throw away a promising future over desperation. And people believed her. Because she smiled through her lies. And I was too broken to fight back. I spent nights crying in Maddie's apartment. She'd offered her couch after I left the dorms. She didn't know all the details yet, but she could tell something had shattered inside me. One night, I finally told her everything. When I finished, she didn't say anything right away. Then she stood up, grabbed her phone, and said, "We're not letting her get away with this." Maddie was like a storm when she got angry, not loud or reckless, but focused. Sharp. She didn't scream or cry like I had. She calculated. "We're going to prove it," she said, pacing the tiny living room of her apartment, her fingers already flying across her phone. "Riley wants to play dirty? Fine. But she's not smarter than us." I watched her, half in disbelief. I'd been so consumed by the pain, the betrayal, the public humiliation, that I hadn't even thought about fighting back. But Maddie had. She looked at me, her voice steady. "We just need to find out how she did it." Over the next few days, Maddie and I pieced together everything we could. First, we pulled the security logs from the dorm Wi-Fi. It took some begging and an awkward conversation with campus IT, but eventually, we got confirmation. Riley's laptop had accessed my Google Drive on the same night she claimed she was just printing a recipe. Next, we dug into my computer's activity logs. Maddie showed me how to pull metadata from the files on my hard drive. That's when we discovered the most important clue. The fake document Riley submitted had been edited under a different user profile. Not mine. She downloaded the file, copied my formatting, pasted in the plagiarized content, and saved it under her own profile before transferring it back onto my computer to make it look like it came from me. But the digital fingerprints were still there. "I knew it," Maddie muttered, staring at the screen. "She's careless. Arrogant. That's her downfall." She was right. Riley thought no one would question her. She thought I'd roll over and let her win. But this time, I wouldn't. We compiled everything, screenshots, access logs, metadata, and drafted a formal appeal to the academic board. Maddie helped me write it, triple-checked the wording, made sure it was clear, professional, and unshakable. We sent it off and waited. The days that followed were the hardest of all. I still had to go to class. Still had to walk past people who whispered behind my back. Still saw Riley on campus, laughing with friends like nothing had happened. Once, she passed me in the library and smirked. That smirk lit a fire in me I didn't even know I had. She thought she'd buried me. But she had no idea what was coming. 2 weeks later, I got the email. Subject: Academic review outcome. I stared at it for a long time, afraid to open it. Maddie stood beside me, squeezing my hand. I clicked. And then I cried. Not because I was sad, but because it was over. I was cleared of all accusations. The board had reviewed the new evidence and determined that I had been falsely implicated. They acknowledged the likelihood of digital tampering and would be reopening the case to investigate potential misconduct from the anonymous accuser. Even better, Innovatech reinstated my internship and added a personal note of apology from the recruiter. I was back, bruised, but not broken. But there was still one thing left to do. Riley hadn't just tried to ruin me. She had succeeded in convincing an entire campus that I was a liar, a cheater, a fraud. She had stolen my peace, my dignity, my name, and she wasn't going to walk away without facing the consequences. Maddie had an idea. You said she keeps her digital diary in her notes app, right? The one she thinks no one knows about? I nodded. Riley had always been obsessive about documenting things, not on paper, but in her phone. She wrote rants, thoughts, gossip, even to-do lists. Like a digital journal. I bet she logged everything, Maddie said. Even the sabotage. It felt like a long shot. But then I remembered something. Riley had once used AirDrop to send me a screenshot of her notes, forgetting that her phone was still set to everyone. I'd seen her entire list of people to avoid this week. It was petty and brutal. So, what if her phone was still set to that? We waited for the perfect moment, the end of semester student mixer. Riley, of course, would be there, glowing in the attention she didn't deserve. Maddie and I dressed up, blended in, and waited until we spotted her near the back patio, sipping from a red cup and laughing with a group of friends. I turned on my phone, opened AirDrop, and there it was, Riley's iPhone. I selected Receive All Files and prayed. A few seconds passed. Then, ping. My heart stopped. A file had been received. It was a long, unfiltered notes document titled, My Summer Revenge Plan. My hands were trembling as I opened it. And then, I saw it. Everything. Her plan to frame me. Her jealousy. Her breakdown over not getting the internship. Her twisted satisfaction when I got accused. Her bitter rant about how I always land on my feet, and how this time she'd make sure I didn't. It was all there. In her own words. Maddie gasped as she read over my shoulder. She's cooked. We took screenshots, emailed the file to the academic board, and with shaky fingers, sent a blind copy to Riley's department head and our resident advisor. We didn't have to say anything else. The document spoke for itself. Riley was called into a disciplinary hearing the following week. I wasn't allowed to attend, but I heard whispers after. That she tried to lie at first. That she'd cried. That she'd blame me again, until they pulled out the AirDrop note. By the end of the month, she had been placed on academic probation and lost her housing privileges. Word spread fast. People who once whispered behind my back now couldn't meet my eyes. Some even apologized. Half-hearted, but still. And Riley? She vanished from campus. Rumor was, she transferred to a community college in another state. You'd think I'd feel triumphant. But I didn't. I just felt tired. Like I had aged years in just a few months. Like a part of me had been hardened forever. I didn't want revenge. I never did. I just wanted to feel safe. To be believed. To have what I earned without someone trying to destroy me for it. And maybe, most of all, I wanted to trust again. To believe that not everyone I let in would twist that trust into something ugly. The weeks after Riley left campus were quiet. Too quiet, almost. I'd gotten so used to being on edge, to every look, every whisper feeling like a dagger, that I didn't know how to exist without the pressure anymore. But the silence wasn't peace. Not yet. It was just the calm after the explosion, when you're still brushing off ash and trying to remember who you were before everything burned down. I spent more time with Maddie. We started going on long walks around campus again, like we did freshman year, back when everything felt so full of possibility. She always knew how to keep me grounded. Some days we didn't talk about any of it. We just laughed about dumb memes or complained about the cafeteria food or dreamed about the future. But other days, I broke. And she never made me feel weak for that. I still don't get it, I said one night, lying on her floor, staring at the ceiling fan. I didn't do anything to her. I was nothing but kind. Why would someone want to ruin me like that? Maddie sat cross-legged, braiding and unbraiding a piece of yarn from her hoodie. Because some people don't want to succeed. They just want you to fail. I knew that was true. But it still hurt. Because no matter what Riley had done, and how far she'd gone, there was a part of me that still remembered the good moments. The late-night dance sessions. The bad karaoke. The dumb inside jokes. The girl who once held my hand when I cried over my high school boyfriend. I missed her. But I didn't think that version of her ever really existed. I started therapy a few weeks later. Not because someone made me, but because I was tired of pretending I was fine. I was tired of carrying the weight of what happened in silence. I was tired of feeling like I had to bounce back when I hadn't even figured out how to stand up properly again. My therapist's name was Dr. Price. She was kind and direct, the kind of person who could read between your words and gently pull out the stuff you didn't even know you were burying. I don't want to be angry forever, I told her in our second session. But I don't know how to forgive someone who never apologized, who never even admitted they were wrong. Dr. Price leaned forward, her voice calm. Forgiveness isn't always about them. Sometimes it's about you choosing not to carry their weight anymore. That stuck with me. Fall semester faded into winter. I threw myself into my internship at Innovatech. The team there was welcoming. No one brought up the drama from before, and they actually respected my ideas. I learned more in those few months than I had in years of lectures. But even there, I moved cautiously. When someone complimented my work, I second-guessed if they really meant it. When I got invited to lunch by a coworker, I hesitated. I wasn't used to people being kind without an agenda. It took time to trust again. But little by little, I began to rebuild. One afternoon, while cleaning out my inbox, I found a draft I'd started writing the week everything blew up. It was a resignation letter, a goodbye to my internship, my school, everything. I'd written it when I truly believed my life was over. Reading it now felt like looking into the eyes of someone I barely recognized. That version of me was so broken, so hopeless, so convinced that her worth depended on what people thought about her. And yet, she survived. I survived. Not just the accusation. Not just Riley's betrayal. I survived the self-doubt, the public shame, the humiliation, the lonely nights where I thought I'd never be okay again. And that meant something. Winter break came and went. I spent it with my mom in upstate New York, watching old holiday movies and baking cookies that always burned at the edges. It was the first time in a long time that I felt truly at ease. I didn't tell her everything that happened. Just enough. She listened, held my hand, and told me she was proud of me. It was the first time I cried happy tears in months. When spring semester rolled around, I moved into a new dorm, one across campus, with a quiet roommate who kept to herself and didn't ask too many questions. It was perfect. I joined a student tech club, started tutoring freshmen, volunteered at the local library on weekends. And most importantly, I started writing again. I hadn't touched my journal in over a year. But now, the words came freely. I wrote about pain and resilience, about betrayal and healing, about how sometimes the worst things that happen to us don't define us, they reveal us. I even started turning those journal entries into blog posts. I called it Pieces of Me. I didn't think anyone would read it, but they did. Slowly, people started commenting, messaging, sharing their own stories of betrayal, of hurt, of rebuilding. It became a community, small but real. And for the first time since that horrible day Riley tried to ruin me, I felt something shift. I felt purpose. One evening, while walking to the library, I saw someone sitting on the steps with their head in their hands. It was a girl from my computer science class, Amy. She was crying softly. I sat beside her and offered her my coffee. She told me she'd just gotten accused of cheating on an assignment by the same professor who once doubted me. She swore she didn't do it, and I believed her, because I knew that look in her eyes. I told her everything, showed her how to pull file metadata, told her who to talk to, helped her draft her appeal. And a week later, she sent me a message. Cleared. Thank you. I don't know what I would have done without you. It hit me all at once. Maybe what I went through wasn't for nothing. Maybe I went through it so I could help someone else survive it too. I didn't forgive Riley. Not really. But I let her go. She didn't get to live rent-free in my head anymore. She didn't get to be the reason I second-guessed every success or braced for betrayal in every friendship. She was just a chapter. One that hurt. One I'll never forget. But no longer the one that defined me. Graduation came faster than I expected. One minute I was walking into my freshman orientation with a suitcase full of nerves and dreams, and the next, I was standing in a sea of caps and gowns, listening to the dean talk about overcoming adversity and becoming the future. It felt surreal. Like the life I almost lost, the one Riley tried to take from me, was finally mine again. But not the same version. Better. Because the truth was, the version of me who almost gave up that fall didn't know her own strength yet. She didn't know how to stand up when people whispered, how to reclaim her story when others tried to write the ending for her, how to walk through fire and come out scorched, but standing. And now? Now I did. My mom cried the whole graduation day. So did Maddie. I wore cords I never thought I'd earn, took pictures I never thought I'd smile in, and shook the hand of the very same dean who had once looked at me like I didn't belong. But I did belong. I had earned my spot here, every sleepless night, every exam, every late night tutoring session and internship deadline and tear-stained paper. It was mine. And no one could take that from me. After the ceremony, Maddie and I walked across campus one last time. It still feels weird, she said, looping her arm through mine. Like, how did 4 years go by that fast? I smiled. Some days felt like 4 years on their own. We both laughed, but there was a bittersweet edge to it. We'd grown up here. We'd fallen, gotten hurt, been betrayed, and healed too. As we passed the old dorm building where Riley and I used to live, I slowed down. I hadn't walked past it since she left. The window to our old room was open. Someone had strung fairy lights across the curtain rod, a small, warm glow. It made me think of all the nights we used to sit in that exact spot, talking about our futures, dreaming big, promising to never let life change us. I used to think Riley had stolen something from me, that her betrayal had cost me more than I could ever get back. But in that moment, standing on the other side of everything, I realized she didn't. She didn't steal my future. She didn't steal my strength. If anything, she gave me something unexpected. Clarity. Because now, I could spot fake smiles from a mile away. I knew the value of real friends, of boundaries, of gut instincts. And most of all, I knew who I was without someone else defining it for me. A few weeks after graduation, I got an email from a national tech nonprofit. They'd read my blog, Pieces of Me, and wanted to offer me a spot on their youth advisory board. They said your writing is raw and powerful, Maddie read aloud, peeking over my shoulder. That you make people feel seen. I stared at the screen, frozen. I hadn't even realized they were watching. But someone always is. That's the thing about telling your story, even when you think it's just going into the void. It's reaching someone, helping someone, healing someone, maybe even saving them. Months passed. I moved to Chicago for a new job, found a small apartment with big windows and started building a life that felt like mine. Maddie visited often. We made a pact to never let the distance change us. I still wrote, still mentored, still spoke out. But I never talked to Riley again. Not when she dropped out. Not when she moved to Arizona. Not when she posted fake, happy pictures with new best friends who probably didn't know who she really was. People ask me sometimes, did I ever get closure? And I tell them the truth. No, not in the traditional sense. Riley never apologized, never owned what she did, never sent a text or a letter or anything acknowledging how she tried to ruin me. But I stopped waiting for that, because closure doesn't always come in a bow. Sometimes, it's you waking up one day and realizing their name doesn't sting anymore, that the memory doesn't paralyze you, that you're no longer rehearsing comebacks in the shower or praying for revenge. Sometimes, closure is peace. And I found mine. I don't tell this story to get sympathy. I tell it because someone out there needs to know that even when your whole world feels like it's collapsing, even when someone you trusted cuts you the deepest, you can still rebuild. You can still rise. You don't need an apology to heal. You don't need everyone to believe you, just the truth. And you don't have to be the same person you were before. Because sometimes, that girl wasn't safe. That girl ignored red flags. That girl poured from an empty cup. That girl gave loyalty to someone who never earned it. And this girl, the one I became, she protects her peace. She trusts slowly. She shines brighter. Because she knows now, real friends don't compete with you, they cheer for you. And the people who try to destroy your future, they're only scared of how brightly you are always meant to shine.